Okay, so adopt.
Welcome, Lori.
Welcome, Lori. But I have one question, Leslie. Is anybody going to take minutes?
I'm assuming that what we are going to do is the usual, use this as the set of minutes. John, you said something about being able to post this. You're not coming through, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just started recording pretty much right after you said, let's call this to order.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. And also what you did say, I believe last night, was this actually makes it easier for Jamie because once she does the recording, she knows who's speaking.
That's
From
right.
the pictures, yeah. It's not just she's got to guess because she's just got the audio.
Yep, it's true.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
Usual, Jamie takes minutes from this. Okay. Okay, adoption of agenda. Anything anybody would like to add, subtract, etc.? Hearing nothing, let's approve the agenda by acclamation. Approval of the minutes from the January 21st Finance Committee meeting. They have been attached to this board packet. If you have looked at them, is there any issue with any of the minutes?
I didn't see any.
With no objection, we will approve the minutes as presented. First item of business, capital requests. It's a SURF request, CRRRF, Capital Reserve, and I never remember all the what they stand for the 2020 culvert and vegetation control. Joey, did you want to present this?
Yeah, I will. Back in 2016, the board through SGM approved this expenditure in there as a motion, and it passed. So this is just the ongoing continuation of that process. What we do have is we are asking to carry over $54,230 from last year, which gives it to a total of $164,611. Now, in the bottom in the recommendation, it says roads not to exceed 110,381. That actually should be 164,611. It should be the whole amount instead of the 110. I just noticed that. So this will allow us to. The process is to try to get 2 crews this year to get caught back up with everything that we have not been able to get caught up on.
Where do you plan to work this year?
I will get that whole entire, I don't have the map yet from Bruce. I know last year they were over on Harborview over in that area. And I know they did not get all the way through there. So it'll be over in most likely gate 3 for one, and then I'll find out the rest of his scope of work.
Okay. Would anybody like to make this motion so that we can go on and discuss this? Aaron?
This is Colin and move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
I'm sorry?
I'll second it.
Okay. Alrighty. So we have a request for, Joe said 164,611 to do the regular culvert and swale work this year. And we do have attached to this also the opinions from 2 different auditors that this should be considered a capital request because of the amount of work and the ongoing nature of it. And so that will come out of our capital funds that we have set aside for it. Any discussion on this?
Well, I just had a question. Is the amount determined by how much was approved in that SGM? So it's basically, this is how much revenue is coming in, and we are making plans to spend all of that because it is required to be spent on this particular thing.
Correct. If it was done with an SGM, so we did fall a little bit behind over the few years to try to get stuff done. So this year we're going to make a very strong effort to get that spent this year and get as much work as we physically possibly can get done.
Okay.
Have you
So
been
Joe,
taking? Oh, go ahead.
Joe, you have the 54,000 is the carryover from what you didn't use last year.
Correct.
Okay.
So have you been gathering information or requests from members who are having problems in particular areas?
I have not gotten any personally. I don't know about Bruce if he's gotten anything that's been directed directly to him. I have not personally gotten anything yet.
Okay.
So what did they do last year?
They started over in Harborview, right at Sudden Valley, and they were working out that road. They got probably 2/3 of the way through that up and back. They did both sides. So, and they spent about half of what we allocated last year, maybe a little bit more. So that with this carryover, we should be able to get 2 crews done and get 2 separate crews running 2 separate areas to get caught up and do a much better job, get more work done in the same amount of time.
Any
And
other,
by the way, I thought I'd point out that 110,381, that amount just comes directly from the road spending plan for 2020.
and doesn't tie into what we've collected or what's actually in the fund? This is just the spending plan?
That's right, yeah. So it's just the amount that was projected from last year to spend in 2020. So this is effectively just drawing down what we've collected so far.
Hey, Colin.
Hi, Colin. We see you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You're there.
I'm in business. I figured it out all by myself.
No kids needed.
Okay. Okay. Can we have a little bit different explanation? Because I'm hearing a couple of different numbers here. Now you're saying 164,000. That is the projected amount plus the rollover.
Correct.
And then, so the 110,000, if you were to add the 54 to that, does that come up to your 164?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. I didn't add it out, so okay. All right. And any further questions or comments about this?
I don't know if I missed something, but basically at this point, Bruce Bishop prioritizes the work based on his experience. That's the extent of the discernment process.
Yes, he will determine what areas need to be addressed the most.
Okay.
There is a plan. What I will do, I don't have that in here. I will get the map from him and get it out to everybody where he plans on going. I also will make sure I get that to you guys as well as to the board for next week.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? The motion on the floor is to approve $164,611 for the 2020 CVC projects. All those in favor, please raise your hand so that I can see. 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. Okay, the motion's approved. Okay, next on the agenda is the no continuing business, no new business. Financial statements for January 2020, which are attached starting at page 11. Joel, would you like to walk us through these?
Sure. So page 11, you see the balance sheet on this one. The page number is kind of obscure what pages this is on. I'll just start off with the balance sheet. Really nothing too exciting about the balance sheet. It's just that total current assets are fabulous. We're up about 121,000 from last year at this time. Then operating assets are really good, about 22,000 from last year. We can just go ahead and turn to the next page on page, what is this, page 12, I guess, for you guys? Well, it should be the very next page with the income statement summary.
Yeah, it just says 2 of
Yes.
32.
Okay, okay, I see it. So basically with this last year at this time, collections rates were 88.4%. This year it's about 86.5%. That's very typical. It looks like going back your history for January. February of this year, I know it's already ticked up to like around 92.5%. The expense to revenue ratio is 74% for this year. Last year it was better at 62%. Your net income last year was 130,969. This year it's 94,000 for operations. If you turn to the next page, which says page 3 of 32 is what it looks like for me. This is just your capital reserve summary page. Basically, surf roads, capital reserves, holding funds, board density, mailbox, all of these, emergency ops, UDR, basically all of these are up and in terms of what it was last year at this time, which is good, talking about the bottom line number for cash. For the next page, which says page 432. Of course, there's current month and then year to date, which makes no difference since we're talking about January. They're one and the same. But golf last year, I'll talk about golf since that's really the most important thing we're talking about. But last year, they were about 147,000. We're at 159 approximately thousand this year. An increase of about $12,000 in revenues is what I was talking about. So that far left number. Net income this year we're at 111,800. Last year, 103,714. Expenses for golf last year versus this year, we're within about $4,000, meaning we're $4,000 better. In terms of like,
This
oh,
basically
okay.
is because all of the annual
That's right.
new memberships have been coming in,
Yeah.
and they hit right away in the beginning. Yeah,
That's
okay.
right. You know, we just, for simplicity, we just recognize them immediately in January.
Yes.
In terms of like other departments are pretty much right on track. But so golf is really the kind of the main thing to talk about. And that's pretty much, those are the big kind of highlights of these statements.
The marina income doesn't hit until later in what, May, June?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the renewals are just starting on Marina right now, so the revenue we won't show until April, May.
Okay.
One thing I'd like to see and talk about on the future balance sheets and income statements is the discrepancies that you have that's over or under what we budgeted for each month. I think I would want to know what those kind of discrepancies are, what's causing those discrepancies. I don't need any nickel, dime a quarter. I just something that's substantial. For example, in expenses, you have contracted services that are $42,000 worse than what's expected. I would like to know what that is caused by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, typically, like I will talk about these big differences in the board meetings if they ask me these differences. So I'll just have differences like that ready for you if you have like questions about big differences.
So
Yeah, I think that's where we got in trouble last year, is that we're not asking the right questions when we see the income statement and seeing what these discrepancies are. And I think even though they may be presented to the board meeting, I think it needs to be presented to the finance committee also, so that we have a better understanding where these discrepancies are and how they occurred.
I think I can chime in a little bit with that, Tony, and Joel can correct me. I believe that might be the snow removal, if I'm not mistaken. Some of that is in there, Joel?
Oh, sure, yeah, in maintenance. Golf even has
the contracted professional services. Did we key in or put it to that line item for the little guy who was doing the snow plowing?
Oh, sure. That and tree removal, all of that is in the contract and professional services.
Okay.
What page are we on here? I'm looking at page 4 and
Page 2.
It's on the income statement, Colin.
oh, you're back on page 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were on page 4. Was I on the wrong page?
Tony had a question going back.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
What I would personally like to see is that at the finance committee, when you present the income, the statements, financial statements, is that you have listed the items that are exceptions and have an explanation for them, so we don't have to ask those questions on an ongoing basis. And that way we're familiar with what's what these things are, how these things are occurring.
Yeah, I heard your question. I didn't hear you reference page 2. So I was just going to mention on page 4, which is just different detail, but it's, yeah, on ACC security, we're 18,600 worse than whatever. And then maintenance is 31,800. So yeah, it'd be nice to have, that's only in 1 month. So just to know what that is. And so, yeah, we had snow removal. Well, how much was snow removal? Oh, well, it was, about this much. Okay, great.
Yeah, snow removal, like just right off the top of my head, seems like Joe, it was around like 50,000 or so for.
Yeah, above and beyond budget. I can tell you the little guy, the UTV guy was somewhere in the neighborhood of, I want to say 16 or 17,000. Tree removal was another 10 to 12. I do know those were in there.
Yeah, that's fine. And even like, we don't even need to know right now, but like next month would be great to just have an explanation then. And then we don't need one every month. Obviously if it's something, if it's the same thing, that's if we're still worse than budget by 30,000, and it's because what we talked about the previous month, a quick reminder, that would be great. So, but yeah, I agree with Tony. I'm sure the finance committee should know, even though you're telling the board.
Yeah, I agree with that. In the financial statements I used to present, I mean, there were more management statements, but we would just on the bottom of every, income statement would have a list of comments noting large variances, and some of them carried on month after month after month. But that way it's not just us and the board that sees it, but when the members see it, they also know, it's easy to explain. It's snow removal, and that particular comment might just carry on month after month after month. So I don't know if we need to add maybe just an extra variance page in here where we speak to those, but having the comments part of it is helpful.
We could add a footnote page. That wouldn't be a problem.
That would be great.
That would be great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a question, sorry, since we're on page 2, I did have a question about that. Joel, you said we were a little bit worse than last year, revenue to expense wise, our percentage of revenue to expenses. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, I mean, what's driving that is, for example, like last year, revenues were 343,000 and expenses were approximately 213,000 versus this year's 362,000 revenues and expenses are 268,000. So it's just a closer spread last year in terms of between revenues and expenses versus this year.
And the
So
other,
our revenues are down a bit, and it looks like our revenues are down.
Actually, our revenues, oh, you mean in terms of the budget? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit.
And that's typical for this place for January. And the thing that's really driving that is the collection rate.
Yeah.
but again,
And then I
last
think
year,
last year's,
the storm we didn't get snow until February.
yeah, I was just thinking that. Yes. Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Joel. Plug away.
That's those are the highlights that I just wanted to point out for the financial statements, unless you had any other questions.
Nope, I don't.
All right. Shall we briefly go through with the Finance Committee the decision to waive dues for the month of April? With the big issues that we've been having with the virus and everybody in the house, and knowing that there are a lot of our members who are having a tough time, perhaps not working the full hours or not having jobs and so forth. The president, Andrew Endergan, and I sat down with Joel and with Joe to discuss the financial implications of waiving dues for the month of April. And because we are aware that we set our dues perhaps at a too high rate percentage-wise, that we could make up a bit of it later in the year. And if what we brought in, we didn't have sufficient for the capital contributions, we would just hold back on that, you know, on any capital expenses that we were going to make. But it just seemed like the right thing to do to help out members for 1 month until we see where this whole thing is going. Any comments on our having done that?
What do you mean we did? I didn't understand when you said we set our dues too high based on a percentage.
Well, we based it on what, 91 or 92% collection rate, and last year we collected up around 96 or 7, and that's where we came with part of the excess funds, at the end of the year.
So we're hoping that we collect this year at 96% in an environment when the economy is heading into the, you know what?
Right.
This would be the time when we probably might expect a 92% collection or lower.
Okay. And it's kind of, it helped people out a little bit, and maybe they'll be able to keep up later on. We don't know where this whole thing is going. That's
No, I'm not. I totally support the idea of giving people a break. I just want to make sure that we have our option A and option B,
okay.
how we pay for it. So if we end up with a 92% collection rate, then, or a 90% collection rate, does that just mean that the capital gets funded at a lesser rate, and how much is that? And I'm not opposed to that. I just,
Yeah.
I think it would be everything across the board, capital, roads, and operations. We would, if we're seeing a trend going down, Colin, we would immediately put in a spending plan and halt what we can halt going forward. So that would be something that Joel and I and you guys would be fully on board with to build and do. So that would be the first thing we would do.
Well, first of all, before we get to that, we have, right, operations emergency funds.
And
We have
UDR.
UDR.
Yeah.
We have the surplus from last year. So we have some things set aside before we need to get to a point where we're like, oh, we're not going to collect this year what we thought we were going to collect.
Yeah.
So I think we have those resources first, and then we start looking at it and saying, you're right, if we waive the dues for 1 month and then actually our collections do go down to a 92 or below, and we're realizing, hey, we're not bringing in the revenue that we thought before, then we can look into the things like holding back capital, pulling back on operations or whatever. But as I'm understanding this right now, the decision was made was not necessarily to change our plans, but to utilize some of these buffers that we have built up from past years.
Yeah.
Karen, what do you?
If we run to the end of the year and we find that we're going to be behind, yes, those are in place, but we would know prior to that, and then act accordingly to that point. The last thing I want to do is get to a position where we are not where we have no cash, because ultimately, if this goes longer than what any of us think, cash is going to be king, even more so than it already is.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I was just saying that I don't think we do already have some buffers in place. So we don't necessarily need to start cutting back right now, although yes, we need to be very conscientious about exactly that, our cash position as we go forward.
Yeah, and I'll point out, so keep in mind between emergency ops and UDR, you have about $620,000 plus, as Karen pointed out, that $140,000 of the surplus from last year.
My screen just went yellow and I didn't even say anything. So I guess it's prompting me to say something. Let's see if I can come up with something. No, I don't. It's our job to make sure that we know how we get through this based on a bunch of different scenarios. I don't want to overcomplicate it. I completely have confidence that we can. I just want to know how, I just would like to see, I guess, we're losing 1/12 of our revenue. And so, okay, how much do we have from pot A, pot B, pot C? Nobody wants to get to the end of the year when we have to, lay off employees or something because of this. And we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. But it'd be nice to know how much we have in reserves to absorb this type of a decision. I guess my guess is we have enough, but I don't know what that number is. I don't know what it needs to be. I don't know if collections go to 86%. How much do we have?
You go to page 3 and you will see the operating reserve funds on the right-hand side.
I don't want to have to go through that. If we're doing a proposal to reduce dues, then there should be something presented that says, here it is, and here are all the different ways we can pay for it. The decision's already been made. I don't oppose it. I'm just trying to give some.
Yeah.
Nice.
A little more defined answer on that.
It should just be it should be in a spreadsheet on a one-page thing. You know, here's scenario 1, 2, 3 based on these different factors, and cool, we got it figured out.
Okay. Joel and Joe, are you able to do something like that? Set out a spreadsheet on.
I missed part of that. My computer ended up dying on battery, so I missed part of that. But if it's to build a spreadsheet in a scenario going forward, yeah, that's something we can do.
Yeah, it doesn't. You don't have to do it this week. I mean, if you could do it within the next month.
Well, it would sooner the better, so that we, we're just about done with the first quarter. I would like to have everything more in place. This is going to go for a while, so the sooner we can get on top of this and get a plan put together is better.
One of the other things is that because of what's going on, I think that the maintenance and the operations expenses are going to go down some. And we have shut buildings. We're not paying for, the heat and light and so on and so forth. So that there are some savings to be made from things like that.
There will be savings across the board for all those things, yes. And if it does happen where we have to shelter in place and everything's shut down more or less, and then we start running different scenarios. So there will be cost savings going forward a little bit on that. So.
Okay, well, I think you understand what we're asking for, so
yeah.
We can have it at the next meeting, or the meeting after that. That'd be great.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Is there?
One question I had on the refunds of the dues for April. How, if these are direct deposit, a lot of people are doing direct deposit to Sudden Valley. How do they get their money back?
Are you talking? You're talking about ACHs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're the ones who implement the ACH every month. So we just won't implement any ACHs for April.
Okay, but on the other aspect, there's a lot of people who use direct deposit of bill pay to pay their dues.
Right.
So,
yeah. Okay.
So
now,
if they're going to do that, you need to advise our members that they need to stop their bill pay so that they don't get charged.
Yeah, we have a comment on the webpage discussing that situation. So basically what's going to happen is if, let's just say someone does have a bill pay exactly like what you said through their bank, and that if it sends in a payment anyways in April, that would wind up as a credit on their account. Since in the system, we basically, it's shut off to charge anyone in April.
Tony, I think you should keep paying your dues. Pay it.
Well,
Hey, this is Penny. I was just joining now. Sorry, I'm late. I thought it was 7 o'clock. I screwed that up on my calendar. Sorry.
You're forgiven.
Penny.
I was just saying that I was talking to my son today, and he had no awareness that they were the dues were being waived. So I'm assuming there was a number of people out there who are paying through bill pay are not aware, and they don't go on the website. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If they pay in April, it'll just get applied to another month. It'll be fine. It's not like they'll never be able to, get their credit. Some future month, they can probably just skip their payment, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest also that we do send out email, our regular mail notices to all of the members, because not everybody is on, the computer and on the website and even on the social media areas where they see this. But I'm sure that there are a lot of members out there that have no idea, as Tony said, that this is happening. We need to talk to send out written notices.
So
Pardon
I've
me.
seen it on emails so far, plus on the website and in some social media. Do we have time to get it into the views? I don't know that. I love the idea of spending more for a separate mailer, but if we could get it into the views, that would be prior to the April payment being due.
There's plenty of time to do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to get a mailing now.
John? You got
I'm so
something?
sorry. There are a couple questions from an attendee. How would you like these fielded?
At the end.
Okay.
Yeah, we take member comments, all questions at the end of the meeting. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, there's 2 questions lined up for you guys.
Great.
Okay, any other comments and questions? Okay, that was an informational piece. And if there are no further comments on this from the committee members, let's go to attendee questions.
No questions.
Okay, yeah, John?
All right, here we go. First one, isn't 2019 overage to be placed against the SURF loan?
Yes, that is what the board voted to do, to take that money to pay off the SURF loan.
Okay. Second question is, how will the overage from 2019 be placed as revenue for PRT income?
It won't be placed as revenue. Right? You can't take an overage from a previous year and count it as revenue in the next
No,
year.
I think they're talking specifically about the special assessment for parks and trails, which since it's a special assessment, it has to only be spent on those things. So that portion of it does need to stay within parks and trails. The portion of the overage that's related to the special assessment needs to stay in parks and trails budgets.
And I plan to just do that by a straight kind of ratio. The amount of revenue for parks that would be attributable to the special assessment, and the plan, meaning to hold some of that back from that 140,000.
Wouldn't that be handled the same way as the overage from the culvert and vegetation, that it just is rolled over to the next year?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And what I meant by holding it back, meaning that amount would not be sent off to pay down a loan. It would be held back in operations to
Right. Yeah.
parks.
There was
That's not part of the overage that's going to pay it down the, yeah, okay.
And there was apparently a comment in response that correct, it has to roll over.
It does,
For-
yes.
For
So
parks,
PRT,
yes,
yes.
yes, that's right.
Okay, I believe that's everything there.
That's it? Okay, I think that this is a reasonable success for a first outing. And if there's no further business, let's close the meeting at 7:07. Thank you.